Have you ever walked into a traditional Japanese garden in the middle of summer and noticed something surprising? Outside the walls, the air feels heavy, the streets radiate heat, and the sun seems almost unbearable. But the moment you step inside the garden, everything changes. The air feels fresher, the ground feels cooler beneath your feet. Even without powerful fans or modern cooling systems, the temperature seems lower. It almost feels like the garden has created its own climate. This isn't an illusion. For hundreds of years, Japanese garden designers have understood something that modern cities often forget. Instead of fighting nature, they learned how to work with it. Every stone, every tree, every pond, and every path serves more than one purpose. These gardens aren't arranged simply to look beautiful. They are carefully designed to manage heat, preserve moisture, move air, and create comfort, even during the hottest months of the year. Today, scientists study urban heat islands and sustainable cooling systems. Architects discuss passive climate design. Landscape experts recommend green infrastructure to reduce rising temperatures. Yet many of these ideas have existed quietly inside Japanese gardens for centuries. The remarkable part is that none of these gardens depend on electricity. They cool themselves naturally. As summers continue becoming hotter across the world, more people are asking the same question. How did Japanese gardeners discover these methods long before modern technology? The answer begins with a completely different way of thinking about nature. Most gardens around the world are built around the plants themselves. The goal is often to display colorful flowers, decorative shrubs, or impressive landscapes. Japanese gardens certainly value beauty, but beauty is never the only objective. Traditional Japanese gardening asks a different question. How can every part of the landscape support every other part? Instead of treating trees, water, stones, and soil as separate features, Japanese designers see them as members of one living system. Each element influences temperature, humidity, sunlight, and airflow. Remove one piece, and the entire balance changes. This philosophy developed over centuries through careful observation. Gardeners noticed where dew remained longest in the morning. They watched which areas stayed comfortable during summer afternoons. They paid attention to how shadows moved hour by hour. They learned which stones remained cool and which absorbed too much heat. Generation after generation, these observations became practical knowledge. Unlike many modern construction projects, where appearance often comes first, Japanese gardens begin with climate. Only afterward comes decoration. This is one reason why many centuries-old gardens still feel comfortable today, despite rising temperatures. The cooling effect actually begins beneath your feet. Most people never think about the ground. When walking through a city, we pay attention to buildings, roads, and trees. Rarely do we notice what lies directly below us. Japanese gardeners do. They understand that the ground determines much of the garden's temperature. Concrete, asphalt, and exposed stone absorb enormous amounts of solar energy. During the afternoon, they become heat reservoirs, slowly releasing warmth long after sunset. Anyone who has walked across a parking lot during summer has experienced this effect. Even after the sun begins setting, the pavement continues radiating heat upward. Traditional Japanese gardens avoid creating these large heat reservoirs. Instead, the ground is usually covered by natural materials. Moss, soil, gravel, fallen leaves, bark, and living plants cover most surfaces. Each material behaves differently under sunlight. Moss is especially remarkable. It acts almost like a living blanket over the soil. Rather than allowing sunlight to strike bare earth directly, moss shades the surface while holding moisture close to the ground. As moisture slowly evaporates, it removes heat naturally. This process is similar to how perspiration cools human skin. The result is simple but effective. The soil underneath remains cooler for much longer. This doesn't only help the garden, it helps every plant growing within it. Cool soil protects roots from overheating. Roots continue absorbing water efficiently. Trees remain healthier. Shrubs experience less stress. Flowers bloom longer. Even microorganisms inside the soil continue performing the important work of breaking down organic matter and supplying nutrients. Everything begins underground. The next secret rises above the ground: trees. Most people assume trees cool an area simply because they create shade. While shade is certainly important, Japanese gardeners recognize that trees perform another equally valuable function. They become natural air conditioners. Every healthy tree constantly pulls water upward through its roots. That water eventually reaches the leaves, where tiny openings release it into the surrounding air. This process is called transpiration. Although invisible, it has a powerful cooling effect. As water changes into vapor, it carries heat away from the leaves and surrounding environment. Large groups of trees can lower local temperatures significantly through this continuous process. Japanese gardens maximize this effect by carefully selecting tree placement. Rather than planting trees randomly, designers consider how sunlight moves across the landscape throughout the day. Morning sunlight is welcomed. Harsh afternoon sunlight is filtered. Layers of different tree heights create moving patches of shade that constantly shift as the sun changes position. This prevents any one area from becoming excessively hot. Some trees grow tall enough to protect smaller trees beneath them. Those smaller trees, in turn, protect shrubs. Shrubs shade moss. Moss protects soil. The entire system functions like a carefully organized community. Every layer contributes. Nothing works alone. Perhaps even more impressive is how Japanese gardeners think about empty space. Modern landscapes often aim to fill every available area. Large flower beds, open lawns, wide paved walkways, decorative structures. Japanese gardens often choose restraint instead. Open spaces are placed deliberately. Paths curve instead of stretching in straight lines. Trees are positioned to encourage gentle air movement. Instead of blocking breezes with solid walls of vegetation, small openings allow cool air to travel naturally through the landscape. This airflow becomes especially important during humid summers. Moving air helps moisture evaporate gradually. It reduces stagnant heat. Visitors may not consciously notice these invisible currents, but they feel them immediately. The garden simply feels comfortable. This effect becomes even stronger when water enters the picture. Many famous Japanese gardens include ponds, streams, waterfalls, or small basins. At first glance, these features appear decorative. In reality, they serve several practical purposes. Water absorbs heat much more slowly than stone or pavement. Throughout the day, ponds remain relatively cool, while nearby hard surfaces become extremely hot. As gentle breezes pass across the water, they carry slightly cooler air into surrounding areas. Evaporation strengthens this cooling process even further. The effect may seem small, but across an entire garden, it becomes significant. Traditional designers understood this without modern instruments. They simply observed. Gardens containing water consistently remained more pleasant during hot weather, so water became an essential design element. Interestingly, Japanese gardens rarely create enormous lakes. Instead, many use smaller interconnected ponds and narrow streams. These distribute cooling effects throughout the landscape rather than concentrating them in one location. The sound of moving water provides another hidden benefit. Although it doesn't physically reduce temperature very much, it changes how humans perceive heat. Flowing water creates a sense of freshness. Psychologists today recognize that natural sounds influence comfort and stress levels. Japanese gardeners discovered this centuries ago through experience rather than scientific experiments. Cooling the body involves more than lowering temperature. It also involves creating calm. This relationship between physical comfort and emotional comfort appears throughout Japanese garden design. Bright reflective surfaces are minimized. Harsh sunlight is softened. Strong visual contrasts are reduced. Everything encourages slower movement. Visitors naturally walk more slowly. They pause more often. They breathe more deeply. Even this slower pace changes how people experience summer heat. Rather than rushing through blazing sunlight, they move gently through alternating light and shade. The garden quietly encourages a different rhythm. There is another fascinating detail many visitors overlook completely: the stones. At first, this sounds strange. How could rocks possibly help cool a garden? The answer lies in careful selection. Japanese gardeners don't simply collect attractive stones. They choose specific sizes, textures, colors, and locations. Large stones, partially buried in the ground, remain surprisingly cool because much of their mass stays insulated below the surface. These stones release heat slowly while helping stabilize nearby soil temperatures. Light-colored stones reflect more sunlight than dark surfaces. Rough textures create tiny shaded areas that reduce direct heating. Groups of stones also influence airflow, gently redirecting breezes around pathways and planting areas. Again, every element serves multiple purposes. Beauty and function become inseparable. Perhaps this explains why Japanese gardens rarely feel artificial. Nothing exists only for appearance. Everything participates in maintaining balance, and that balance extends far beyond the summer season. The same designs that keep gardens cool during July also help retain warmth during colder months, reduce erosion after heavy rains, preserve soil moisture during dry periods, and support healthier plant growth throughout the year. Instead of solving one seasonal problem, traditional Japanese gardens create environments capable of adapting continuously. This long-term thinking may be their greatest lesson. Modern construction often focuses on immediate results. Japanese gardening focuses on lasting harmony. The question is never, how do we defeat summer? Instead, it becomes, how do we help nature regulate itself? Once that question changes, the solutions become surprisingly elegant. Simple materials, patient observation, thoughtful placement, generations of experience. No machines, no complicated technology, just an extraordinary understanding of how nature already works. And as we'll discover next, one of the most powerful cooling secrets isn't found in the trees, the ponds, or even the stones. It's hidden in something so ordinary that most visitors walk past it without ever realizing it has been controlling the garden's temperature all along. Before we continue, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever visited a Japanese garden or another place that felt noticeably cooler than everything around it? Share your experience in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this journey into the hidden science behind traditional Japanese gardens, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you won't miss part 2. One of the greatest cooling secrets in Japanese gardens is something most visitors barely notice: the spaces between things. When people first visit a traditional Japanese garden, they often admire the trees, the ponds, the bridges, and the carefully shaped plants. But what truly makes the garden comfortable isn't only what has been added, it's also what has been left empty. Modern cities often fill every available space with buildings, pavement, parking lots, walls, and roads. Every surface absorbs sunlight during the day. By afternoon, all of these materials begin releasing stored heat back into the environment. This creates what scientists now call the urban heat island effect. Even after sunset, cities remain hot because the concrete continues radiating warmth. Traditional Japanese gardens avoid this problem almost completely. Instead of covering the landscape with hard materials, designers deliberately leave breathing room. Open gravel areas separate clusters of trees. Narrow pathways curve gently between planting beds. Small clearings interrupt dense vegetation. These empty spaces allow air to move naturally. As warm air rises, cooler air flows in to replace it. This continuous movement prevents heat from becoming trapped. Unlike mechanical cooling systems, which require electricity, this process never stops. The wind performs the work for free. Japanese gardeners spent centuries learning how local breezes behaved. They observed where cool morning air entered the garden. They noticed where afternoon winds slowed down. Rather than fighting these natural movements, they designed around them. Even a slight breeze becomes surprisingly effective when it can travel freely. This is one reason why traditional gardens often feel much larger than they actually are. The open spaces don't simply create visual beauty, they create invisible rivers of moving air. Another overlooked secret involves the garden paths themselves. Many people assume pathways exist simply to help visitors walk through the landscape. In reality, their design influences temperature as well. Japanese garden paths rarely follow perfectly straight lines. Instead, they gently curve around trees, stones, ponds, and shrubs. This slows visitors naturally. Without realizing it, people reduce their walking speed. Moving more slowly changes how the body experiences heat. Fast movement generates additional body warmth. Slower movement allows perspiration to evaporate more effectively. The curved paths also reduce long stretches of exposed sunlight. As visitors turn each corner, they repeatedly enter patches of shade created by carefully positioned trees. The experience alternates constantly: sun, shade, light, coolness. Instead of enduring continuous heat, the body receives frequent opportunities to recover. This gradual rhythm makes the entire journey feel more comfortable. Even the materials chosen for the pathways contribute to cooling. Rather than using large sections of dark asphalt or concrete, traditional Japanese gardens often use gravel, compacted earth, stepping stones, or natural stone. These materials behave differently under sunlight. Gravel contains countless tiny air spaces. Those spaces reduce the amount of heat transferred downward into the soil. Rainwater also drains more effectively through gravel, allowing moisture to remain below the surface. When that moisture slowly evaporates, it removes heat from the surrounding ground. Stepping stones provide another advantage. Because only part of the surface is covered, vegetation and soil remain exposed between the stones. These living surfaces continue cooling the environment through evaporation and plant transpiration. The pathway itself becomes part of the cooling system. Perhaps nowhere is Japanese attention to detail more impressive than in their treatment of shade. Many people think shade is simply the absence of sunlight. Japanese garden designers see it differently. They understand that not all shade is equal. Dense shade beneath a thick roof may feel dark and stagnant. Natural shade beneath layered trees feels alive. Light filters gently through branches. Leaves move with the breeze. Sunlight constantly shifts across the ground. This moving shade prevents any single area from becoming excessively hot. The result is softer temperatures without creating damp, uncomfortable conditions. Japanese gardens rarely create complete darkness. Instead, they create balance. Filtered sunlight remains bright enough for healthy plant growth while preventing intense solar heating. This principle appears throughout traditional architecture as well. Historic Japanese homes often featured wide roof overhangs that blocked high summer sun while allowing lower winter sunlight to enter. Gardens and buildings worked together. The landscape wasn't separate from the house. Each supported the other. This relationship between architecture and nature became another source of passive cooling. Many gardens were positioned specifically to influence nearby buildings. Trees shaded walls during summer afternoons. Ponds reflected softer light into living spaces. Open courtyards encouraged air circulation. Together, the house and the garden formed one complete environmental system. Modern sustainable architecture increasingly embraces these same concepts. Designers now study shading coefficients, airflow simulations, and solar orientation. Japanese builders practiced these principles long before computers existed. They simply relied on careful observation over many generations. Another remarkable feature of traditional Japanese gardens is their use of vertical layers. Instead of growing plants all at one height, gardens develop upward in stages. Ground moss covers the soil. Small flowering plants occupy the next layer. Shrubs rise above them. Young trees extend higher still. Large canopy trees complete the upper level. Each layer performs its own cooling function. Ground plants shade the soil. Shrubs reduce reflected heat. Tree trunks interrupt direct sunlight. Canopies protect everything below. Together, they create what ecologists now describe as a forest structure. Natural forests remain noticeably cooler than open fields for exactly this reason. Japanese gardeners recreated miniature forests inside carefully maintained landscapes. Although each plant appears individually arranged, the overall structure functions like a natural ecosystem. The temperature difference can be remarkable. Measurements taken in heavily vegetated areas often show significantly lower surface temperatures compared with nearby paved spaces. The effect grows stronger as plant diversity increases. Different species release moisture at different rates. Various leaf shapes intercept sunlight differently. Deep roots draw moisture upward from below. Shallow roots stabilize the upper soil. Every plant contributes something unique. No single species carries the entire burden. This diversity also increases resilience. If one plant experiences stress during extreme heat, others continue supporting the overall system. Nature rarely depends on only one solution. Japanese gardens reflect this wisdom beautifully. Water management provides another fascinating lesson. Many people imagine that keeping a garden cool simply requires frequent watering. Japanese gardeners take a far more thoughtful approach. Instead of flooding the landscape every afternoon, they aim to preserve moisture already present in the soil. Healthy soil behaves almost like a sponge. Organic matter absorbs rainfall and irrigation. Rather than allowing water to run off quickly, it stores moisture deep underground. Tree roots can access this reserve gradually over many days. This reduces evaporation dramatically. Timing also matters. Watering early in the morning allows moisture to soak deeply before intense sunlight arrives. Leaves dry naturally as temperatures rise, reducing disease while supplying roots with enough water for the hottest hours. Even the shape of planting beds helps conserve moisture. Gentle depressions collect rainwater. Raised edges reduce runoff. Natural contours slow water movement. Very little is wasted. This careful relationship with water extends to rain itself. Japanese gardens celebrate rainfall instead of trying to remove it immediately. Stone basins capture water. Small channels guide its movement. Ponds store excess rainfall. Rather than seeing storms as problems, gardeners treat them as opportunities to recharge the landscape. Every rainfall becomes future cooling power. Perhaps the most surprising lesson involves maintenance. Many people imagine Japanese gardens remain beautiful because gardeners constantly trim every branch and rake every leaf. While maintenance is certainly important, it follows a very different philosophy. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is health. Dead branches are removed so healthy ones receive more light. Trees are pruned to improve airflow. Shrubs are shaped to encourage balanced growth rather than dense overcrowding. Even fallen leaves often remain temporarily, returning nutrients to the soil as they decompose. Maintenance strengthens the cooling system instead of interrupting it. This patience reflects a broader cultural perspective. Japanese gardens are rarely designed to impress for a single season. They are expected to improve over